What is up? It is Andy coming to you for Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals. If you hear a little congestion in my voice, that's because after I made the last video the other day, I felt a little tickle in my throat before I went to bed. You know, just saying tickle in my throat made me think of the saying tickle. Does that tickle your fancy? Every once in a while, I look up random sayings to see where the hell did that originate from. Oh, that tickles my fancy. You know, I remember, have I even told it on this show about bigwigs? I'm like, well, where the hell does the term bigwig came from? And it came from the days where the bigger the wig you had depicted how much money you had. Because if you had more money, you can afford a bigger wig, and that was like a status symbol. Like the bigger it got, the more rich you were. So you were a bigwig. Now, everybody guess right now, before we get onto what the hell is tickle your fancy? What the hell can that come from? What is the origin of, oh, that tickles my fancy? And I always wonder, because there are sayings that span hundreds of years. And do you think I'm going to be talking about sniffs? Are one of my sniffing is believing? Are they going to say that centuries from now? Probably not, but I think it's fascinating that some sayings, despite how much the world changes, remain with us. And all that to let you know that I woke up the following day after having that tickle in my throat, and you see how hanging out with me can be a wild experience, how we'll go way off the tracks. But I woke up with a sore throat after having the tickle in my throat. And when you have a sore throat, you want to know what the last thing you need is? Going outside and having it look like you're about to fight Goro in Outworld because of you Canadians sending a bunch of forest fires our way. And I look outside, and as you see about those videos in New York City that look like The Road with Viggo Mortensen, if you know that movie, seems like the end is upon us. Thank you guys for that, because I woke up with a sore throat, and with my luck, it's the one day I've been alive where New York City looks like Mortal Kombat, and I can't breathe outside. The one day I needed a nice breath of fresh air because of you Canadians, because of you Canucks, I couldn't breathe. But with all that said, how about we take a look at Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Finals? Now, Game 2, I'm a little regretful, because while I returned to Florida plus 1.5, with Bobrovsky, now the Bobrovsky you saw in the previous year, that's fully gone. He's gone. So we're talking about those Panthers, who I claimed, they haven't looked that good all playoffs. The difference has been Bobrovsky. You remove Bobrovsky, and you're getting a team that could pretty much lose any single game, including tonight. However, I have not seen a sweep in the Stanley Cup Finals since the 90s. We can talk about conspiracy theories, about penalties always kind of going against the team that's up 2-0, or you have a team coming down home 2-0, and whatever it may be. The whole series comes down to tonight for the Panthers. I don't think that means they're necessarily going to win, but I do like them coming out hot. Sometimes I wish you can do period player props, and maybe as time unfolds, those will be available. But I would love to take the over on saves for Adin Hill in the first period, because you got that team who's down 2-0. What do? Get anything and everything to the net. They come out, with cannons shot out of their ass. That's a fake saying. But the desperation is usually there for a team down 0-2 in the Cup Finals, going home for that first game in a must-win game. I wish I could take the over on Adin Hill saves. The reason I would be scared to do it for the game, because if Florida is up, like let's say 2-1 in the third period, you know what they're going to do. Classic playoffs, Stanley Cup, we're up by 1, everyone's sitting back, and you're getting pucks in deep. You're not going to press the issue. So that's why I'd be worried about the saves for the game. If I had to pick one, I would take the over. But I really would like that early in the game. So how great is that? That I've talked about sayings and looking them up, and then a bet you can't even take before we get to some of the actual bets. But that's what you got. You got one game every 3 days. You may as well enjoy some random topics. Some things change every day, like the news stories. Some things that don't are the promotions available to you, like the free $1,250 bet, the risk-free $1,250 that they have going on at Caesars Sportsbook. If you're a new user on the platform, over 21, you bet $12.50 on this game. And you know I always give you Caesar same-game parlays. If you lose, your next bet is going to be risk-free up to $12.50. But like I said, you just got to be a new user over there, over 21, and located in a state or burning province where sports betting is permitted. And if you have a problem, that's just about as serious as those wildfires. Call 1-800-GAMBLER, and somebody will help you address those issues and concerns. And don't be skeptical. Don't be one of those skeptics, okay? Give them a call, and maybe they'll surprise you, because you're not figuring it out on your own. I'll tell you that. That's me to you. That's my advice to you. There's no way you're figuring it out on your own. Like, you come here for my bets because you don't trust also don't trust yourself when it comes to figuring out your gambling problem, if you have one. If you don't have one, let's talk about this game 3. So this should be the classic desperation game on Florida's end. I don't trust them to win the game. Vegas is playing too well. They played their best game in the closeout game versus Dallas. There was a close game 1, but now Bobrovsky's confidence fully eradicated. He's no different than the goalie that was benched at the end of the season, in my view, at this point. With that said, because I have not seen a sweep since the 90s, I want to find ways to get Florida at +1.5. Especially because when you look at the line, you see Florida's favor in this game. They lost game 1 5-2, and then they got absolutely boat raced in game 2. I'm taking Vegas. So if you need to sleep well, even though the game is before you get to go to sleep, just know that the majority of people are probably going to be taking Vegas after watching that last game. Classic overreaction, like an NFL team smacks you one Sunday and then everyone takes them the next Sunday, and then they screw you against the Houston Texans. But I would not be surprised if Vegas wins because of the way they're playing, but I do want to find a way to get the Panthers at +1.5. One way that we can do that is go back to each team scoring 1.5, and you got to feel better about that nowadays with Bobrovsky unable to hold the other team very much. So both teams over 1.5 with the Panthers at +1.5. That's around even money. Even though if I had to project a winner and I thought they were going to win, I still think Bobrovsky would have to hit his over on saves, because if you are watching how Florida's playing now, they're kind of throwing caution to the wind. When Bobrovsky was playing lights out in the net, they were kind of trying to supplement his great game with defense. But now, as you saw last game, that goaltending's not there, they're throwing caution to the wind, and they're playing like they did against the Boston Bruins. So I kind of have more faith in one of those high-scoring Bruins type of games. So I will go both teams over 1.5 goals with the Florida Panthers at +1.5. Now, looking in this game, I'll go one of my favorites. We're getting a fair price on him. Alex Barkov registering a point. I'm going to be looking to their main players to contribute tonight as far as the points go. Like I said, Barkov. And I'll even go with Brandon Montour. I always hate the 1.5 point prop, so I will not do that for Matthew Tkachuk. But coming off all those penalties and misconducts, I do think he's going to be firing that puck tonight. I will take the over 3.5 shots on goal, which is an interesting number because it's typically for the superstars. And I saw that they bumped up Carter Verhaeghe to 3.5. Remember the other night when OddsShopper Premium at Area 51, they liked the over on 2.5 for him, and I'm like, I'm not smelling that tonight. And he ended up with 1 shot on goal. Well, he blasted a couple shots the other night. They bumped it up to 3.5. And even with Marchessault, we kept taking the under 3.5 on him, whether that was last year's, and he kept getting 3, which is scary to deal with. But 4 shots on goal is a lot of shots. And if you're not talking about someone like Alex Ovechkin or something like that, even Eichel, I will not be taking over 3.5 on him at all anymore, because going into this series, I thought he would have heard those concerns that he defers too much. No, he's still deferring all the time, and they're putting his shots on goal at 3.5. They're putting Verhaeghe's shots on goal 3.5. They're putting Marchessault's shots on goal 3.5. I bet you, unless this game goes to overtime, 2 of the 3 of those are going to hit the under on those shots. Just too many shots on goal. So I will go with the under 3.5 for Carter Verhaeghe. Speaking of Marchessault, I may take the under 3.5 points, but this guy, he has just hit his stride. He is one of those classic You ride that streak while it's on it, and you stay away from it while it's cold. He didn't score once in the first series or in the first 2 games of the Edmonton series. Now he can't stop scoring, so I wouldn't mind combining a Barkov point with a Marchessault point on Caesars. You throw $12.50 on it, and it's risk-free. You want to get crazy? You can add the over on Bobrovsky saves to that bet, and that'll put you at plus 400 something. Oh yeah, $12.50 times it by 4. Oh yeah, you're looking at a $5,000 win if it hits. But if you took advantage of the promotion, that will be risk-free regardless. And looking at maybe some more player props, show me Riley Smith at 1.5. I'll take the over. And that more or less is what I got for you. Good luck to you. Better luck to me. Make sure you're subscribed to the Odd Shopper channel here. If you need some additional picks, I'm sure you can find them over at Odd Shopper Premium. They have a great deal going on. Check that out. Get a free week. Get your free picks. Get your baseball picks. Get your NBA picks. Get all the Area 51 bunker picks. And then also, if you want, subscribe to me on social media. It's at Andy Francis on all social media platforms. I recorded a podcast. I went live on Instagram, so if you were following me there, you could have joined in on that live. I talked about a couple things, albeit with the sick voice. And I got to some of what I thought about these games tonight. So, there are a multitude of reasons to go follow me on there. I will have a podcast out later today that I recorded yesterday that I put on the live, and I'm going to throw it on YouTube and everything. So make sure you're subscribed to my channel here on YouTube. It's Andy Francis, the same way you see it on your screen. All right, everybody, I will be back with you for Game 4. Hopefully it's not our last time together. And then maybe I'll give you an exit video after I tell you how I feel about the whole season and then what happened when playoffs started and all that stuff. We'll get to that eventually, but let's get through this Game 3 and the rest of this Stanley Cup first. I will see you guys later.